Hi, William.
Hi, Valentin.
Thanks for accepting our invitation at Cryptoast. I'm very happy to make this interview with you because you work at the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, where you specialize in 20 years um,
Yes.
in the fight against money laundering, specialized in the cryptocurrency. So. Let's see together the cryptocurrency are pseudonymous and not anonymous, like people think. Since then you have created, even participate in the development at procedure to fight against cryptocurrency fraud, and you know work in the privacy company, blockchain intelligence group, in a similar field. It's good.
Yes, it's good. Yes, to be clear. So after a career with the Drug Enforcement Administration in the United States, I joined a company called Blockchain Intelligence Group, where I'm with now. Blockchain Intelligence Group is a cryptocurrency and blockchain data analytics company, a forensics company. Basically, what we do is look at on-chain activity. We compare that to other intelligence that we develop to see if those transactions have a high risk, meaning that they are in contact or they're transacting possibly with drug traffickers or human traffickers, terrorist financiers. So we do that mainly for financial institutions, virtual asset service providers, people like that, merchants that transact in cryptocurrency. And then for law enforcement, we work with law enforcement agencies all over the world where we provide them the software to help them track and trace, understand the flow of transactions that happen on the blockchain. And recently, we've been able to expand that where we can show the flow of NFTs, that some of these NFTs that are being stolen lately.
Yeah, NFT it's probably a little problem for the industry at this point. You saw the advent of the web and then cryptocurrency. How criminal were using to web to launder money, and when did that become interest for in the web?
No, good question. So the cryptocurrency started to become a problem. Oh, I'm probably saying around the mid 2000s, probably around 2005, six in that area, where we started to see drug traffickers, from my perspective, started to see drug traffickers selling their drugs online, in particular on the dark web. And the medium of exchange was using cryptocurrency, and in particular, it was pretty much Bitcoin at the time.
And all people know Silk Road because in the crypto world, it's a big story. You work in this story, in the Silk Road story, or not?
So during that time, yes, I had. There was a lot of people and a lot of different agencies that worked on Silk Road because it touched so many cases, and this was something that was new, so everybody was kind of learning it. So we had people that were transacting, undercover agents that were transacting to purchase drugs. We had other agents that were doing the investigation, the technical background of it, and these were different agencies. So I just want to say FBI had worked on this, and in the U.S. and IRS and Homeland Security, and then there were a number of foreign entities also that at times was one of the things of being a federal agent in the U.S. We work closely with law enforcement from around the world.
And just before your specialization at cryptocurrency, you see the same problem with the web, just to send money and money laundering, and cryptocurrency was to make easier this problem, to make.
Yeah, so I want to say that in specialization, when you asked me that, I kind of focused my time as an investigator on narcotic money laundering investigations, and that's what we need to think in terms of. This is just another way to launder proceeds or to pay for drugs. The The cryptocurrency allowed the criminal element to transfer some sort of value now over the internet, the digital currency, and then be able to cash out that value for fiat currency or maybe more drugs or guns or something else. So it was used. It had value to trade. The internet, basically at the time, it gave another means for the way to drug traffickers to operate. Mostly we associated drug trafficking operating, on some dark street corner somewhere. But this allowed them to operate. It allowed a drug trafficker to operate in one country and to sell drugs to somebody in another country.
Yeah, because we know that the movie and the narco series, the work of the DEA, in the big case, and its work of infiltration at the time. So, but on internet, that changed everything, like you said. What was your daily work at the DEA?
So, the daily work of an agent is to investigate narcotics trafficking at the organization, to identify, to disrupt and dismantle the organization. That was the power of working for a federal agency. So it wasn't so much just the street level dealer. It was asking the question, well, how does that street level dealer get his or her drugs? How do they launder their money? And everything basically in between. What the goal of an investigation was to basically take down the organization, wherever that organization may be. So many times in New York, our organizations, while they were local street level distribution in New York, the organization would take us back to possibly the Dominican Republic. It would take us back to Colombia. And with offices and agents all over the world, we were able to continue those investigations, having those agents now work with our what we call local counterparts in those countries to try to identify, who was the head of the organization, who was controlling the flow of money, who was controlling the transportation. These were all different aspects and pieces of what we call the drug trafficking organization.
When you discover Bitcoin at the DEA, you said, it's a very big problem because we are not middleman and we can't stop the traffic because you can't call a bank and switch off the account. Do you think in the first time this point and after you understand Bitcoin and transaction and blockchain, you said, it's a very good thing because you can roll back the transaction to find people?
Right. Well, investigating a traditional money laundering case, you're taking time to get records from banks if they are using a financial system. So you have to think in terms of money laundering, and money laundering has 3 stages. Okay, the first stage is placement of that money in a financial institution. I've always said, right, if a drug dealer sells his or her drugs and they have a bag of cash, whatever that is, euros or dollars, and it's sitting in a bag in a closet, that is valueless. It has no value because they can't do anything with it. So they have to do something with that cash. So they have to somehow place it into the system, into the financial system, be that they make some deposits into a bank account, or they convert it, or in the case of cryptocurrency, they're able to exchange it for cryptocurrency. The next stage is to layer it. This called this layering stage, where they basically the money launderer, kind of has to now look like it's legitimate and make some moves with it, and then finally it's this integration into the system, where now they've converted it. They may have taken that money, converted it maybe to a consumer good like cell phones or appliances, refrigerators, and then then at the end of the stage maybe resell it, right, to make it look like a legitimate transaction, and now it cleans up the money. where we have is the placement is most vulnerable, right? It's the most vulnerable where we can maybe catch it before it's placed or start to understand that it doesn't make sense. That's why many banks in Europe, all the banks, the laws in Europe, the laws in the United States, Middle East, require banks and financial institutions that include crypto businesses that they have good AML, anti-money laundering standards. They have good KYC, know your customer standards and policies and procedures. And you see when a financial institution or a bank or an exchange, a crypto business doesn't have that, when they are fined and they get these massive fines. And it's usually because they had failures in their AML and KYC program.
It's probably a bad idea to use cryptocurrency for sell drugs today.
Well, it's a bad idea to sell drugs today.
Yeah.
We'll start with that. I would say that the criminal element has to move value around, and if it's crypto, if it's fiat, or if it's, as I said, cell phones or something else, they will figure a way to move that value. I like to say, look, we continuously play catch up because, one, the bad guys have the resources, they have knowledge, they study the stuff. They have professional money launderers. They have, which I like to say, they'll have criminal enterprises as a service. So like to say, crime as a service. So somebody may not ever touch the drugs, but they provide the transportation, or they provide the money laundering, right? But they are part of, in the U.S., that's part of this investigation. We want to make them part of the conspiracy, that they can be charged just as hard, just like we would do to the person that's selling the drugs or producing the drugs.
And today, perhaps NFT, it's a problem for money laundering and for drug, because you can understand the transaction in Bitcoin, but NFT, it's more complicated. What do you think about this NFT for fight against drug and money laundering?
So yes, that's a great question, and the NFT space, with this tremendous opportunities that I've seen for artists, for just many record keeping, for a lot of opportunities. I see a lot of good use in blockchain in NFTs, but like anything else, that those money launderers and criminals will try to figure out how do they use it to their advantage. At Blockchain Intelligence Group, we've developed a tool called Clue, which is a graphing program. And basically the program is now being used by law enforcement. It's being used by private investigators to track and trace NFTs. We recently, working with some investigators, our tool we were able to track and trace a what we call a rug pull, where somebody advertised a project, they took payment, and then they ran away with the money. One of those involved, it appears, allegedly involved, is a French influencer, I guess a reality star here in France. And what we were able to do is put on a graph and a visual representation, where the monies went to the different accounts, and making connections between what's out there publicly. We were able to make a connection to one of those wallets associated with this reality star.
Okay. And in the industry, and particularly I think in France, we think people and governments said cryptocurrency is very bad because it's used for money laundering, it's used for the drug. Don't touch Bitcoin. But you see with the blockchain, the number of the use case for money laundering of drug, it's very, very little. Do you think it's real? Today it's 0.1% or 1% of the more it's 4% to Bitcoin for its use for this use case. It's the same number in your group. You say
so. There's some different schools of thought out there on the use, how prevalent it is and what percentage it is. The first thing I think we need to remember is cryptocurrency itself is neither bad nor good, right? It's how it's used. It's, the people that use it that are going to make the use of it bad or good. So crypto itself, I don't believe is, bad or good. I see tremendous opportunities in trade and business, people being rewarded for their data, in gaming, micropayments that cryptocurrency allows, as I've come to study and learn the use of crypto and how it's used. I think it may still have a little ways to go before it's convenient, we'll say, to use for a cup of coffee on a daily basis. But for some international trade, for maybe a small farmer or producer in a foreign country who's selling to another country, who can get paid along stages of the product, that has tremendous opportunity in NFTs for artists as well. I think so. So yes, not good, not good or bad. It's how it's used. One of the other, what we'll find is the knowledge amongst the regulators and law enforcement is important. One of the another thing that we do is we provide training. We have a training course. It's called the Certified Cryptocurrency Investigator course, and it's a course that's online. You can find it at our website. But that course is being taken currently by police agencies all over the world. It's actually being taken by financial institutions. Their AML and compliance folks will take that just to learn, again, it'll start from the basics. What is cryptocurrency? How do the bad guys use it? And then basically how to investigate it, and goes through some use cases and the different regulators and their take on it. So it's become a really valuable tool to the industry to begin that journey, especially those I guess incumbent businesses and institutions that are now getting into the crypto side, or their clients are in crypto and they need to understand it, which we find a lot, where a financial institution has customers that are dealing in crypto, and while the financial institution may not, they need to understand what are some of the AML, some of the risk that go along with banking customers who either bank in crypto or crypto themselves.
Okay, and what do you do today in your company? Because we understand at your job and in the DEA a little in your company, but each day, what is your job today?
Yeah, no, each day is exciting here because one, I get to get out and attend events and speak at events like Paris Blockchain Week Summit and come visit. I get to speak on a daily basis to law enforcement agencies, who are facing the challenges of dealing with a criminal element that are dealing in crypto and how to address it. It may be a small agency that had some victim in their community that, get taken by a scam. So may help them out just to try to understand and point them in a direction where to go. And one of the things that, we're looking for, where did this criminal, where were the on and off ramps, right? That's where we want to find and try to direct law enforcement. The NFT space is pretty exciting, looking at the smart contracts and what may be happening there. Also trying to work with the general public and what's good in providing education. So I'll get out and talk to a community group about some of the scams to look out for, to protect people. One of the things to say to your audience here. There's a scam where people get a phone call from saying they're from, quote, the DEA or the FBI or the local police, and they'll tell them, unless you send, a half a Bitcoin or whatever it is in Bitcoin, to this address, you're going to get arrested. Well, that's not the way law enforcement works. So, don't do it. No, you don't have to do that. Any type of phone call or email or mail that you may get that says, you have 30 minutes to send $500 in Bitcoin, and we'll send you $1,000. But we think about that and we say, well, who would do that? But what we'll do is we graph that out and we show, just thousands of dollars being lost to these, millions of dollars being lost to these scam artists. So I'm explaining to you here. This is a recent rug pull that was identified. This is a graph here using our tool to track and trace the flow of funds. And initially, what we're identifying here is the relationship between the developer and the contract. Okay, and then you could see here these arrow boxes we added just for context here. And then what happens is the monies, when they're pulled from this NFT, from this project, they basically go to these 5 accounts. And what we do at Blockchain Intelligence Group, we try to identify those accounts through what we call open source intelligence. And we had previous open source intelligence that this one account here belonged to individual Laurent Correa, okay, and from some other media that he had put out, and then it shows the funds when they were taken go to these accounts. Now, I can't say right now, what his involvement is, but what we can say is we can give what we call attribution to account. So if somebody, for instance, was fundraising off their Twitter account for terrorist activities, we would capture that and then possibly later on be able to say, okay, well, now this rug pull was seen in a terrorist account. Maybe that's a way that they're laundering money. So, and this is just a couple of hops and a couple of steps on where the money went, and what we'll continue to build this out to try to seek where the funds are. And this is where law enforcement would take this. They would try to identify the on and off ramps, maybe where monies were exchanged, cashed out. Hopefully that went to an exchange that keeps a good AML, KYC, that they have a good program and that they'd be able to identify. So that's why I say, the blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's pseudonymous, right? It's not anonymous. When you put out your information out there, or we're able to, off a public record, it could be social media, could be dark web, those are things that we capture and work on, and then try to give attribution to see what it's in contact with and what it's transacting with.
It's really huge, but when you find people at the end, because of course, KYC, and if I use MetaMask or Ledger, and at one moment I put in the sex like Binance, CryptoPunk.com or other sex, and okay, you can say it's this person, and I put this information from local authority, and it's okay for your job, and a blockchain intelligence group work with authority.
Right. So this would be some software that the authorities would use. So this is kind of software that it was French authorities or an investigator. It could even be private investigators, attorneys, tax accountants may use this to show their client their flow of funds and where they went to.
It's very, very, very important to understand this point, because all people think, okay, I use Bitcoin, it's okay. No. Your group can roll back the transaction for find the people at the end, and you have a problem.
Well, and it's also important for financial institutions or anybody that's doing business in crypto, right? Because these 5 accounts will say, right, we've identified them as being involved in this illegal activity, this theft, right? But now, if you're dealing in crypto, you want to know that they're very high risk, right? So that's what we do for the financial institutions, is if they saw this transaction come into their platform, they'd be able to say, stop, you're of high risk here, what's going on, right? They want to start asking questions. So that's what the blockchain and cryptocurrency allows an institution to be able to identify what is risk and why is it, and we would provide this backup material to that institution.
And how many you have in blockchain intelligence group?
Our company?
Yeah.
Oh, our company we have people worldwide. We're based in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. There, we have people in Canada, Asia, India, U.S. Different roles. Many of the people that work at Blockchain Intelligence Group are analysts that are always looking for these illicit activity, looking for connections, making connections, developers and graphic designers, salespeople. So there's a lot of different roles in the company.
We understand you work at the DEA, and the big question for our viewer: what do you think about Narcos and the Pablo Escobar series?
Right. So that was a great series, the Narcos Netflix series there. The two agents that are featured in there, Javier Pena and Steve Murphy, they are real agents, very good gentlemen, great guys, and tell a great story of their efforts to basically take down, at the time, who was the world's most notorious drug trafficker, Pablo Escobar. As you saw in the series, in particular in that first season in Colombia, you saw the power of the money that Pablo had accumulated, the power that he was able to amass, amongst the people, but also the terrorist activity and the killings of police and civilians, and at the time flooding the streets, America's streets, with cocaine.
Plata or Bitcoin? Do you think Pablo Escobar come in this period and use cryptocurrency and use Bitcoin? It was more difficult for the DEA to stop Pablo Escobar.
Right. No, that's a great question. There are today's Pablo Escobars. We do know that these criminal organizations are using Bitcoin to further their activity. Yes, as you saw in the show, Pablo Escobar surrounded himself with different individuals who had different roles. If you remember the accountant, right, who was laundering the money, who had the books. Do I believe that there's an equivalent today out there of that character, that person who's laundering the funds? Absolutely. And are they using Bitcoin? Absolutely. We get reports of the number of Bitcoin ATM machines in certain areas of Mexico that are very heavily cartel controlled. We'll hear from local police when they uncover and they do a search warrant, or they make an arrest and they uncover ATM receipts, or maybe they uncover cold storage wallets. So yes, I think you can take that show and that story. I think you definitely can take the characters that were involved in the laundering of money and say, yes, if they were living today or doing their work today, their equivalents are out there. They're using Bitcoin. They're figuring ways to reduce their risk. Having bulk cash is very risky. It's very risky getting over the border. So how do they convert it to something else? And digital currency would work for them.
You imagine Pablo Escobar with the ledger in the bridge at the beginning of the series to sign his transaction to pass with the drogue.
I would say I'm not sure. I think we'd see a lot of scenes where Pablo Escobar is looking for his private key. I think that would be something. So that's why I think he'd have people around him. But if you remember the scene where they buried the money for years, and when they when they dug it out, it kind of crumbled and just crumbled away. So yes, I could see that. But him looking for his private key.
Thank you, William.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.